Welcome back, guys. Mike Frank with Frank Oliver and Company coming to you today to talk a little bit about radon. What is it? Where does it come from? And how do we combat it, right? Before we run down that road, want to say a big congratulations and a shout out to my brother Ben for being a big homeowner this year. He bought a house last week. Very excited for them to start their journey. And just for what it's worth, everybody that knows me, I love everybody and everything that's gone on in my life. I know that my mom is very proud of him. And so big shout out to him for that. Anyway, all right, cool. So what is radon? So radon is a naturally occurring gas, right? It comes from the ground. It's colorless and odorless, and it comes in through basically the decay of uranium, which is way down in the base of our soil, in the center of the earth. We're going to get uranium that's going to be just sort of expanding and finding its way to the earth. Just think like smoke in a house. It's going to kind of find its way out. Same thing with the uranium gases, which comes out as radon. Why it's pertinent to us is because it comes into the foundation of our homes, right? Foundations are typically a little bit lower. They're going to be inset, especially if you guys have a basement. Radon is going to come up through the cracks and the crevices in the basement, and it's going to come and populate inside the home until it pressures itself to get outside of the home in whatever ways and means that might come, right? So radon is incredibly important because the CDC says that it's the second most popular thing that's causing lung cancer behind smoking, right? It's something like 3 to 14% of lung cancer cases are attributed to radon. And that's a crazy number, especially considering the fact that it's odorless and colorless and it's coming in from just like anywhere, right? So if you don't know whether or not you have radon, it might be the time to test. It might be the time to mitigate. It might be the time to just take a little bit of a second to think about it and take a deep breath and try and figure out what's the best move for you and for your family, right? We talked a little about where it comes from and why it comes into a home, but ultimately the thing that you really need to know is that it's going to come up from the ground, it's going to pressure into the basement and work its way through the house, which could potentially cause harm to you and to your family. The concentration is going to be very different between house A and house B, and your neighbor's house might have a really high rate of radon and your house might just not. There's so many factors that go into it that as the EPA considers it, you want to test on a routine basis and you want to have the opportunity to protect yourself from those higher levels and mitigate against that bigger issue. Now, something that a lot of people think is, well, my house doesn't have a basement, so I don't have radon. Well, that may be true, but there's no hard and fast rule. Well, my house has a walkout basement, so radon is going to go out, out there. It's not going to come into my house. That may be true, right? Or, hey, my house is a new home construction, or I have a radon system, or I have a passive system, or I have an active system. And all these different things, while people don't understand what they are, might help, but they might not. Right? So we're going to talk a little bit about how to test for it, but ultimately what you should know is that it's there and it might be present. There's just no hard and fast rules. If you have a basement, you may have radon. If you don't have a basement, you may not have radon. You may have a crawl space that's so well sealed up that it's coming right into the crawl space and coming right into your house without even your knowledge. Now, it's the type of thing that people oftentimes don't think about. And as a real estate agent, I'm never going to tell you not to test for radon. But what I might tell you is, hey, if you're going to test for radon, it needs to be something that you keep testing on a routine basis. And if you're not going to test for radon, maybe you just don't care. Maybe it's something that you can add at a later date. So then we talk about how to combat radon, right? Obviously, the knowledge, the testing, radon is measured in picocuries, I think. It's picocuries per liter. It's some crazy little like PICCIO or something per liter. It's crazy. All I know is that if the radon level is above 4 picocuries per liter, the EPA says that you should mitigate. But truthfully, the EPA says that there's no safe level of radon. So even if you had a radon at a 1.8 picocuries per liter that day, what if you tested in 6 months and you had a 3.8? What if you tested in 6 months and you had a 7? What happens if shit changes, right? If it changes and you're not testing and you're not paying attention, you've been in the house for 3 or 5 or 7 or 12 years, what happens if the day that you tested it, you only had a 2 picocuries per liter, but then in 6 years, all of a sudden it was 28, which is way over the EPA's recommendation. And I don't remember the conversion, but it's something ridiculous. Like 5 picocuries per liter is equivalent to smoking some amount of like 1 to 5 cigarettes per day, but then all of a sudden you get to 20 and it's like exponential. Now all of a sudden you're smoking a carton a day per person in the house, right? It's kind of crazy. So this is the type of thing that you want to keep an eye on. And as I was learning about it even more a couple weeks ago, I got this guy from Air Things. We're going to talk a little bit about this in a second, but how we can mitigate against radon is certainly testing. That's a big thing. You want to test, you want to know, you want to empower yourself with knowledge, right? Then, how do you mitigate it? There's a couple different ways, but the biggest two ways are a radon mitigation system that comes from the foundation of the house and it shoots up above the roof line. Now, it can come out the side of the house and go above the roof line. It can go through the house and go above the roof line. It cannot go into the attic. It's still in the house. Hello, right? But you also have two different main types of mitigation. You have passive and active. Now, both of them have a hole in the ground in the foundation shooting that radon up above the roof line. But the active system has a little teeny tiny fan in it that just runs 24/7. And it's just a little fan that's sucking air up and pushing it out the roof. Typically, that's going to help mitigate, but occasionally somebody might install the fan backwards, which I've seen. Or it might have a system on one side of the house, but you might live in a split level house, or you might have other mitigating factors, and all of a sudden, in the other side of the house, you have an issue. So it's the type of thing that you want to be cognizant of. Now, why buy the air things? Because I've had my house tested, and at the time, it was a very low number. And now I'm thinking, well, I've been there for 4 years. I should probably have it tested again. So I start thinking to myself, there's got to be a way in 2021 that we can test on a routine basis, kind of like with a Wi-Fi device or some sort of other monitoring system. And so I start Googling, and I come across this AirThings Wave Radon Monitor. So we're going to unbox it because I haven't even unboxed it yet. But the cool things that I liked about this radon monitor was that it measures radon, it measures CO2, it measures humidity and temperature, and it keeps a tracking log of it. So I can actually log in through my phone or my computer and check the log online. I guess I should let you know while I'm unboxing that Wave AirThings did not pay me for this. I didn't even get a discount. I guess I should, but I was a little bit more worried about my safety than I was about the discount. So, I'm pretty excited because from what I read, it's this. That's it. Oh, hey, a screw. So it's got some information in here. We're going to talk about that later. Ultimately, from what I read, yeah, it's pretty much just this, right? So this little piece mounts to the wall, one little screw, mounts to the wall, and then this little guy magnetizes right onto this. It seems like it's controlled with two AA batteries. Whoa, it's really magnetic. I can't even get it off. There we go. So it's two AA batteries. And this little AirThings guy just sits on the wall. So I plan on mounting him about here in my basement. And the cool thing about the AirThings, they call it the Wave, right? You guys might see a little link down there, but certainly in the description below, you're going to see a link to this website where you guys are going to be able to find all the information about this. And there's two different main types that AirThings has. Now, the cool thing about the Wave is that inside of here, there's a little LED description. And when you're looking at it, you wave at it, haha, pun intended, and it turns green. Well, all you know is that your radon levels are lower than 1.5 picocuries per liter, right? But then if it turns yellow, it goes up a little bit. And now if it's red, of course, that's telling me that, hey, my picocuries per liter are now over 4, which is the EPA's recommendation of remediation. Now, why did I do this instead of installing a radon mitigation system, which I do not have? Well, I started thinking, what if I installed a system, but then I never tested again? Wouldn't it make sense to have a starting point, a baseline? So for me, getting this Wave is a protection for me and for my family. Every time I walk into the basement, every time I clean the cat's litter, or every time I empty the washer or the dryer, I'm going to be able to wave at it and just say, hey, green, yellow, red, hey, I'm safe. I feel good. And it gives me that confidence that I'm not going to succumb to something that I couldn't otherwise know. And it's going to be a routine follow kit. So I can see as the levels go up and down, and I can start to monitor it. If I needed to install a mitigation system, then I can monitor it before and after and compare. That's one of the biggest fallacies in this industry, is that people don't actually compare. They get a test right after they mitigate for the system, and they say, oh, I'm good for 3 or 5 or 7 or 10 years. And all of a sudden, what happens if in 10 years you go to sell your house and you have way high elevated levels? Well, this is why I really like this system. So I'm really excited to knock it out. It seems super simple. I'm probably going to mount it tonight, and I'll let you guys know how it goes next week. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, hit me up. I'll send you a direct message. I'll show you some pictures. I'll probably post it to my Instagram feed, so certainly follow us there. And if you don't already, subscribe to the link below, and we will talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you next week. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for weekly content. Also, check out our social media pages. The links are in the description below. See you next week.